Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive.
Oh yeah, always happy to be back.
So this time we're exploring the November night sky.
That's right.
We'll be taking a look at a space.com article about, about kind of special event happening.
It is pretty special.
A close encounter with Venus
It is.
during the new moon.
Yeah, and that new moon kind of makes it even cooler, I think, because...
Right. So can you remind us what exactly defines a new moon? I know we've talked about it before, but just as a refresher.
Yeah, so basically the new moon, it happens when the moon is between the sun and the earth.
Okay.
You know, like picture drawing a line straight through the earth and the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And when the moon falls on that same line, well, that's a conjunction.
Okay.
And that's what makes a new moon.
So the moon is there, but we just can't see it.
Yeah, it's kind of lost in the glare of the sun.
Got it.
Unless, of course, it passes directly in front of the sun.
Oh, right. Which would be a solar eclipse.
Exactly. But that's not happening this time.
No.
This time it's all about this encounter with Venus.
That's happening a few days later, right?
Yeah, the new moon is on November 1st at 8:47 a.m. Eastern Time.
Okay.
And then a few days after that, Venus will appear really close to this thin crescent moon in the sky.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize the new moon was on November 1st.
Uh-huh.
I know new moons are significant in a lot of cultures.
Absolutely.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of lunar calendars, like the Islamic and Hebrew calendars, the new moon is the beginning of a new month.
Interesting.
It symbolizes new beginnings, you know, fresh starts.
I like that.
A lot of traditions around the world associated with a sense of renewal.
It's interesting to think about this invisible new moon
Yeah.
and how it's actually setting the stage for this really cool event with Venus.
Yeah, and it's not just any encounter with Venus.
Right. So when exactly can we catch these two together in the sky?
Well, on November 4th, you want to look for that thin crescent moon in the evening,
Okay.
and then Venus is going to be right below it, shining really brightly.
Venus is always so bright.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like it's always so easy to spot.
Yeah, it's actually the brightest thing in our sky after the sun and the moon.
That's right. I forgot about that.
It's pretty incredible when you think about it. It's like sunlight bouncing off another planet, and then that light's reaching us here.
Wow. Yeah, that's a really cool way to think about it.
You're seeing the sunlight reflected off of another world.
So we've got this new moon and Venus, but are there any other planets joining the party this month?
Oh, yeah, it's like a planetary parade in November.
Really?
Yeah, so on the night of the new moon, Saturn is visible in the southeast,
Wow.
and it reaches its highest point around 9 p.m.
Okay.
And you know what's even cooler? You can actually see Saturn's rings with a basic telescope.
Oh, I love that.
It's one of the most amazing sights I've ever seen.
It's so cool. And I think for a lot of people, that's one of their first, like, wow moments in astronomy.
Definitely.
Okay, so we've got Saturn on the night of the new moon. What about Jupiter and Mars?
They show up a bit later.
Okay.
Jupiter rises around 8 p.m., followed by Mars. They'll each be hanging out in different constellations, too.
Okay, we'll have to talk about this a little bit later then.
Oh, good.
So no matter where you are in the world, it sounds like November is the perfect month to go outside and check out the night sky.
Yeah, it really is.
But I do have a question. Are there any differences between what sky watchers in the northern hemisphere versus the southern hemisphere will see?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. They both get to enjoy the same show, but the perspective is a little different.
Makes sense.
Like, for example, in the southern hemisphere, Venus is going to appear higher in the sky.
Okay.
And Mercury, which is usually pretty hard to see,
Right.
it'll actually be easier to see in the southern hemisphere than in the northern hemisphere.
Ah, so it's like different views of the same show.
Yeah, exactly.
And what about the other planets and the constellations? Well, they look different from the southern hemisphere, too.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So, for example, Saturn.
Yeah.
That's going to be shining bright in the northeast for those in the southern hemisphere. And it reaches its peak around 9 p.m. there, too.
Wow.
It's really fascinating how your location on Earth gives you a totally unique perspective on the universe.
It really is.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
So we've talked about planets, but I'm thinking we need to talk about the constellations.
Oh, yeah, the constellations for sure.
Because there's so much more to the night sky than just the planets.
Yeah, you know, those connect the dots in the sky. They've captivated humans for like centuries.
I know, it's amazing.
It's like celestial storybooks, you know,
I like that.
filled with all these myths and legends.
So where should we start our constellation tour?
Well, we've got to start with Orion.
Orion the Hunter.
It's a classic.
I remember learning about Orion when I was a kid.
Yeah, it's super easy to spot, especially in November,
Yeah.
and especially in the northern hemisphere.
That's right.
It's a real gem, and by late evening, you can see it shining bright.
Oh, yeah.
along with Taurus and Gemini.
Oh, that's right. They're all kind of close together.
Yeah, they're like neighbors in the sky.
Even as a kid, I could always pick out Orion's belt.
Oh, yeah, those 3 stars in a row.
Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah, what are those 3 stars called again?
Okay, so from east to west, you have Alnilam, Alnitak, and Mintaka.
Okay.
And once you find the belt, you can trace out the rest of Orion.
Oh, that's right.
You can find his shoulders, his legs, even his club and his shield.
Okay, so if you're ever lost in the sky, just find Orion's belt.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good starting point.
What about Betelgeuse and Rigel?
Oh, those are some of my favorites.
I know, they're like the 2 super bright stars
Yeah, they're amazing.
in Orion. So where do they fit in?
Okay, so Betelgeuse is a red Supergiant,
Okay.
and it marks Orion's right shoulder.
Oh, okay.
Can you imagine a star so big that if it were in our solar system, it would reach out to Jupiter's orbit?
Whoa, that's huge.
It's massive.
And Rigel?
So Rigel is a blue Supergiant, and it marks Orion's left foot.
Okay.
And it's even brighter than Betelgeuse, even though it's further away.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, they're both incredibly luminous.
It really makes you appreciate how much is out there.
Yeah.
It's not just like dots in the sky. These stars are like
Uh-huh.
huge and powerful and
They have their own stories to tell.
yeah, exactly.
It's amazing.
So what other constellations should we look out for around Orion?
Well, just above Orion, you'll find Perseus.
Perseus?
Yeah, the mythical hero.
Okay.
And nearby, you can see Taurus the bull.
Oh, yeah, with the reddish star Aldebaran.
Exactly. And if you have really dark skies, you might even see the Pleiades star cluster near Aldebaran.
The Seven Sisters.
Yes, exactly.
I love that one. It looks like a tiny little jewel box.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And then in the northeast, you can find Capella.
Capella.
Yeah, it's the brightest star in Auriga, the charioteer.
Huh?
So it's like another little family up there.
That's right. I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
It's interesting how some of those constellations are grouped together like that.
Oh, yeah, totally. They're like celestial families.
Yeah. Are there any other constellations that are kind of related in that way?
Oh, there's so many.
Yeah.
It's like a whole celestial family tree.
I love that.
So one that I think is really interesting is the Argo Navis family.
Okay, I've never heard of that one.
Yeah, it was actually one massive constellation
Wow.
that represented the ship Argo from Greek mythology.
Oh.
But it was so big, they ended up dividing it
Oh.
into 3 smaller constellations.
Really?
So you have Carina, Puppis, and Vela.
Oh, wow. I'll have to look for those.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
So that was a lot about the Northern Hemisphere.
Yeah.
What about our friends down south?
The Southern Hemisphere.
Yeah, what constellations can they see?
Oh, they have some amazing sights down there.
I bet.
So by 8:30 p.m. on November 1st, the Southern Hemisphere sky is beautifully dark.
Perfect for stargazing.
Exactly. Perfect for stargazing. And one of the first things you'll see is Antares.
And Antares.
Yeah, in the west-southwest.
Oh, the heart of Scorpius.
You got it.
Another red supergiant.
Yes, just like Betelgeuse.
I love those red supergiants.
They're so cool.
They have such a distinct color.
Yeah, totally. And then if you look further south, you'll see Rigel Centaurus,
Rigel Centaurus.
also known as Alpha Centauri.
Oh, wow. Our closest stellar neighbor.
That's right.
It always gets me thinking about like
Yeah.
other planets that could be out there. And maybe even life.
The possibilities are endless.
I know, it's so exciting.
All right, so then as you look towards the southeast,
Right.
you'll see Canopus close to the horizon.
Canopus.
Yeah, it's the brightest star in Carina,
Okay.
which is the ship's keel.
Oh, right. One of those constellations from the Argo Navis family.
Exactly, we're seeing those family connections again.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so Canopus is a bright one, and about halfway up the sky from Canopus, you'll see Achernar.
Achernar.
It's a bright blue-white star at the end of Eridanus the river.
Okay.
And then even higher, almost directly overhead, you'll see Fomalhautes.
Fomalhaut.
Yeah, it's the alpha star of P.C. Austrinus,
Wow.
southern fish.
So many cool constellations.
It's amazing, right?
Yeah, it sounds just as captivating as the Northern Hemisphere.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Just a different set of stars and different stories.
Different perspective.
That's what's so cool about it.
So as the night goes on, are there any other familiar sights?
Yeah, so in the east, Canis Major will rise.
Canis Major, the big dog.
And with it comes Sirius.
Sirius the dog star.
That's right.
I remember learning that it's the brightest star in the entire night sky.
Yeah, it's incredibly bright.
And to the left of Sirius...
You'll see Orion.
Oh, that's
Yes.
right. Orion's visible in both hemispheres.
Exactly.
But it's upside down in the south.
You got it.
So Rigel would be higher than Betelgeuse.
Like the whole sky is flipped.
It's amazing how our perspective changes everything.
Yeah, it is. And from Rigel, you can actually trace the path of Eridanus
Oh, wow.
River
Okay.
all the way across the sky to Ekinar.
It's like a river of stars.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
So whether you're in the north or the south, November is a great time to see some amazing things.
Oh, yeah, for sure. There's a whole show up there.
It's a cosmic invitation
That's a great way to put it.
to go outside and look up.
Yeah, and just connect with the universe.
I love it.
And, these constellations have been inspiring people for centuries.
Yeah,
It's a reminder that we're part of something much bigger than ourselves.
that's a great point.
Yeah, it's pretty humbling.
Wow. This has been quite the journey.
It really has.
We've gone from an invisible new moon to Venus and a whole bunch of planets and even dove into some constellation mythology.
Yeah, there's so much to see up there.
I know, it's amazing. So before we go, let's recap some of the highlights.
Okay, sounds good.
We started with the new moon happening on November 1st, which is time for new beginnings.
Right?
And we learned how that new moon is setting us up for a meeting with Venus.
Uh-huh. Just a few days later.
And then we talked about all the other planets putting on a show for us this month.
Like Saturn with its rings.
Yes.
And Jupiter, the biggest planet in our solar system.
And even Mars.
It's going to be a busy month.
It is, and we can't forget about the constellations.
Oh, yeah, those are the best.
Each one with its own unique story.
Like Orion the Hunter,
Yeah.
Taurus the Bull.
And for our Southern Hemisphere listeners, we can't forget about Canopus
That's right.
and Eridanus the River,
And of course, Sirius the Dog Star.
the brightest star in the night sky.
It's amazing how those constellations have connected people for so long.
I know, it's really cool. They're like time capsules, you know?
Yeah, carrying stories from the past to the present.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the November night sky, what's the takeaway for our listeners?
Well, there's a whole universe waiting to be explored right above your head.
Exactly.
All you need is a clear night and a little curiosity.
And maybe a star chart.
Oh, yeah, a star chart or an app can be really helpful.
Yeah.
But as you look up at those celestial wonders, think about that new moon.
That symbol of new beginnings.
Exactly what new intention or goal will you set for yourself under this new moon?
That's a great thought to leave our listeners with.
I hope so.
So until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep looking up.
Absolutely.